Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Ted, here to bring you another lecture. And today's lecture topic is going to be Philip II of Macedon. And now, before we really get to the story of Philip, I'd like to do a brief recap of the situation at home and on the world stage on the eve of Philip's rise to power. And now, to begin the story, we have to go back to the end of the Peloponnesian War. The Peloponnesian War was the massive war fought between the Delian League, headed by Athens on one hand, and the Peloponnesian League, headed by Sparta on the other hand. And this war ended in 404 BCE, and it saw a Spartan victory. And what that victory enabled Sparta to do was establish an hegemony or overall leadership of the Greek world. And Spartan hegemony pretty much lasted from 404 BCE until 370 BCE, at which point the Spartans were defeated by the excuse me, they were defeated by the Thebans at the Battle of Leuctra. And in this battle, it was just a disaster for the Spartans. Their king was killed, their army turned and fled, and the Thebans simply marched down into the Peloponnese, the home region of the Spartans, and turned the Helots and the Perioeci, the subject peoples of the Spartans, against them, and formed a league with them and an alliance with them, in which the Helots and the Perioeci would now act as the bulwark against future Spartan aggressions, meaning that if the Spartans wanted to march out and challenge the Thebans for control of Greece, they would first have to fight the Helots and the Perioeci. And in the meantime, while the Perioeci and the Helots were fighting the Spartans, it would enable the Thebans to march their forces down to fully subdue the Spartans. It effectively neutralized Sparta as a major player in the Greek world. And the Thebans would in turn maintain this hegemony between 370 and 362 BCE. And during this time, they simply fought massive wars against the other Greek powers that pretty much exhausted the Greek city-states. They by 362, they were really just exhausted and not in any sort of position to offer any opposition to any newcomer who wished to impose himself on the Greek world. And with that being said, let's turn to Philip II of Macedon. And now Philip was born in 382 BCE, and he was the youngest son of the Macedonian king Amyntas III. And had the young boy, he was actually sent as a political prisoner to the city of Thebes. So he was in Thebes during the era of Theban hegemony. And he was educated pretty much as a Greek aristocrat. He received military training first and foremost. He got to see the way modern Greek armies operated, and he also was exposed to Greek culture, that is Greek literature, philosophy, art. He really became a Philhellene, a lover of all things Greeks, due to his time at the political hostage in Thebes. And once once the Theban hegemony, once that period had ended, the Thebans simply released Philip and he returned home to Macedon. Now, Philip, on his return to Macedon, he encountered very dire political and internal situation. His brother, the king, had recently been killed in battle with the Illyrians. The army had been smashed. The Thracians were threatening to invade and attack. The Athenians were landing troops on the regions, on the borderlands of Macedon. And when he arrived, the royal authority in Macedon was held by his nephew. Now his nephew was an infant, and one of the things that Philip did to sort of shore up stability of Macedon was he simply replaced his nephew. He disposed his nephew and took on the royal authority for himself. And now Philip, to sort of combat and rectify the situation that was happening in Macedon, he used wily diplomacy, outright bribery, and military force. And in turn, Philip immediately made peace with the Illyrians. He actually married an Illyrian princess to sort of nullify any immediate thoughts of the Illyrians pressing their advantage and attacking the major provinces, the core regions of Macedon. He bribed the Illyrians to simply not attack, and he entered into negotiations with the Athenians, in which he basically promised to act as the muscle of the Athenians in the region. And the Athenians always looking to cut down costs to themselves, they took him up on the deal, and they charged Philip. They gave him the duty or the task of attacking and subduing certain key cities in the region for them. Okay, and now Philip, after this, after nullifying uh, international um, international problems of facing Macedon, he turned his attention now to reorganizing the Macedonian state. And one of the things that he did was he immediately went out and captured the city of Amphipolis. Now Amphipolis was one of the cities that the Athenians wanted for themselves because the outlying regions of Amphipolis were rich in gold and silver mines. Philip captured the city and kept it for himself. And he used the gold and silver mined in Amphipolis to pay for the rebuilding of the royal capital at Pella, and also to rebuild the Macedonian army. Now, at Pella, what Philip did was he transformed Pella from being a royal village to a first class Greek style city or polis. He recruited architects and artists from all over the Greek world to build temples, theaters, and to create mosaics to further enhance the beauty and luster of the city. He brought in philosophers and established an academy to educate the children of the Macedonian elite. Now, the rejuvenation of Pella gave Macedon a cultural and political focal point, something that the kingdom just had never had before, and it helped to unite the kingdom and give it a national identity. Now, the school itself was a clever ruse because one of the biggest problems or issues facing Macedonian kings was that they were able to pretty much control and harness the resources directly under their command, but the outlying provinces, the regions controlled by the Macedonian elite, alternatively referred to as the barons, were pretty much out of their control. A strong king could marshal the resources of the barons and pretty much get them to play ball, but a weak king couldn't do so. And even if you had a strong king, he would sometimes still have to go out there and sort of beat the barons into submission to get them to follow the royal will. What the school, this academy, did was it gave Philip access to the heirs of the Macedonian nobility. As I said before, it was a very clever ruse. Philip could now use the heirs of the Macedonian nobility as hostages to ensure their father's good behavior. Uh, another factor into building a school and inviting all the children of the Macedonian nobility to attend was that these nobles, these future noblemen, the future leaders of Macedon, will grow up as the childhood friends of Philip's children, thus linking the future generation with long-standing ties of friendships and uniting the future king with his aristocracy. Okay, Philip, again using the wealth that he had managed to gain through seizing Amphipolis, he then began to buy supporters throughout the Greek world, in Athens, in Thessaly, Corinth, and even Thebes. Philip then began to intervene in the Stallions Civil War, and this was successful on his part. And as a result, he was later appointed the Tagus of the Sicilian League, and the Tagus is simply the leader. Um, and what this did was it gained Philip access to the best cavalry units in the Greek world. But at this point, Philip was still thought of as a minor threat, a barbarian on the not so far side of the world. There was only one man at this point who really saw Philip for what he was, or really had a clue to Philip's ultimate designs, and that was an Athenian orator named Demosthenes. Now, Philip, to sort of nullify any sort of major threats, any sort of major attacks on his new gains, and to pretty much just shore up his control of Thessaly, he signed a new treaty with Athens in which he guaranteed their grain supply. And this was pretty much just a preparatory move on Philip's part to gear up for his final campaigns to subdue the rest of the Greek world. And at this point, we'll stop, and when we come back again, we'll discuss the other great achievement of Philip's reign. the reorganization of the Macedonian army.